Hi guys, and welcome to another Ark Survival Evolved video. I'm Robbo, and this video is going to be a bit of a tutorial on soloing on a PvP server. I've had a request to do a video like this, and I was actually leaning towards doing one of these. This location I will show you in another video, but this is probably one of my favourite locations to solo from. You're quite literally surrounded by nearly every resource you need in the game. Within nearly view distance. It's a pretty amazing spot, and this is actually a spot I consider a beginner's spot, and not a lot of advanced players come down here. So you'll see here I've got a few foundations laid out. Now this is how I always start. I'm not going to show you thatch. I'm going to basically do this from wood right through to metal, how I plan my constructions and how I do that, how I do it from start to finish. I won't show you thatch, because when I build thatch, if I'm just new to a server, level 1 new to a server, and I build thatch, I build it on the beach, and I stay there only as long as I need to, pretty much. My first wooden base might not be where I plan on building, but I always do all my planning in wood rather than any other material. Wood's easy to collect. Thatch, I don't like planning in thatch because you can't actually see how walls are snapping together, which I'll show you in another video. I'm going to do a building tips and tricks at some stage, how walls are snapping to different foundations and so on and so forth. It's hard to see before you place them with thatch, so I always like to use wood for my planning. Now, this is always how I'll start out. As you can see, big flat open area. I'm on a cliff. I've got water close by. Pretty much an ideal location for a permanent base for a solo player. There's a bit of room around me, enough for dinos if I wall this off. But I always stand by planning bigger than what I'm building to begin with. So this also helps with leveling. I've built a heap of wooden foundations, and instead of placing and filling in the whole thing, I've just placed a perimeter. Now if I come down here and I saw a high spot in the ground in the middle of this, I'd place foundations over it to make sure that they would actually place there. But I know this location, I know it's quite flat. I know I could go much bigger than this if I wanted to, but this is my initial plan. This is how I will begin a solo PvP player build. And I'll go ahead and build my first, basically step 1 to this construction, and then I will come back and show you where we're at with that. Hi guys, and welcome back. So this for me is stage 1 of construction. As you can see, it's just wood, 4x3. At this point I'm working on leveling. I want to get up a few levels so I can start building stone walls, stone foundations, that sort of thing. So the base size and base layout's really not a concern for me. Defense isn't going to be much of a concern. It's basically a place to put my dinos and keep them safe, and even if they die at this stage, it doesn't really matter, because after a while they're not going to mean much to you at this lower level. So I've got a couple of dodos. I'm going to always have a couple of dodos. Never go into a base without dodos. It's just, from the moment you have your thatch base, you should always be trying to get a couple of dodos. You can see we've got a raptor and a trike in here quite comfortably. There's room downstairs here to put in, well, normally I would put the likes of, say, 3 or 4 mortar and pestles, 5 even. Since I've got a trike, I'll be working on narcotics, because I've got a trike and a raptor. I'll be working on narcotics to help me level. 1 forge and 1 smithy. Now, pretty much at this point, I'm only gathering resources as I need them. I'm not going out and stockpiling resources. Anything of importance I'll leave on the trike and things like that. And you can see I've got a pteranodon up the top here. There's plenty of room to fit one up here. You could even fit an RG up here as well if you wanted to. As I said, this is stage 1 for me. I'm just, from this base, I'm leveling. I'm trying to get levels so I can start building stone buildings. I've got enough room to get my dinos inside at night out of the way. If you can get past this stage quickly, like normally I'll knock this up in a couple of hours, only if I'm not going to be on long enough to get to the stone, get to building stone. but I'll knock this up in a couple of hours. As I'm doing it, I try to tame Trike, Raptor, Pteranodon, all those sorts of things. Um, Even if I can't get a Pteranodon saddle, I'll try and tame one early so I can just sit in the base and level until I get up to building the saddle. Um, but yeah, that's about it. Like, it's nothing fancy. It's just basically to get you going. Just somewhere where you can store your stuff it's not raid proof by any means. No, you're gonna get very easily raided here, but it might deter, half the people from raiding it. And honestly, for me, this is just a 1 day base at most, 1 to 2, you know, 1 day, fucking not much more than that, and I'll move on from this. So I'm gonna move on to stage 2 of this build now, and I'll show you where we go from there. And we're back again for this stage. Now, as you can see here, all I've done is build a wall. And you might think, well, that seems, pretty pointless. Why are you building a stone wall around a wooden base? Well, for me, at this stage, this is the most important part. Like, this isn't the last wall I'll build. I'll wall this off into a much larger area. But this wall is going to be permanent for a fair while, and this is the key to being able to build the next sections of your base safely. This is the first part of your defense. Building a wall of this size it's time consuming, because at this stage you have to pick every stone by hand. You're probably going to be chopping all your wood by hand, and it's going to take a lot of effort, but don't compromise. Build a wall much larger than you need it. I'll just fly around the back here so you can see what I mean. See, I've built it all the way along the cliffs. Now, you'll notice that the wall is 3 high all the way around, apart from along the cliff edge. Now, always build your walls 3 high. This is going to keep out everything apart from gigas, where gigas, no matter what height the stone wall is, they're going to be able to munch through it. But chances are you won't see people on gigas down this far trying to munch down your walls. So this will keep Rexes out, no worries. Now, it's too high at the back, and you might think, well, you're on a cliff, there's no dinos going to get in here, but it's more the fact that at this stage we've got no defences. So we're going to be putting probably our trike outside, maybe, depending on the state of the server. There may be people with quetzes and stuff around that can pick it up, but we're going to be putting our trike outside, and we're going to put it on aggressive or neutral, so it can protect, people getting into the base somehow. People could jump these walls on frogs. Like, that's another thing you've got to worry about, is people can jump 3 high walls on frogs. But I build 2 high around the back so people can't fly up here on a bird or, on a quetz and shoot at my dinos and drag them off the edge of the cliff. So it doesn't need to be any more than 2 high, because at this stage you're not going to have access to a Spino or a Rex, or if you do, you're going to have to build it 3 high, but chances are you're not going to. The other good part about this building this wall, is this is going to level you up quite a bit. This is going to get you to the point where you can build the rest of the stone buildings. So the stone foundations, you should have enough engram points to have learned all your metal tools, your stone foundations, all your stone building parts, and then also some metal components. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about what metal things you want to learn straight off the bat. Of course, you have to learn metal foundations first, and then you want to work towards learning a metal door, not a dino door, just a metal, personal access door, a building door, and also the metal dino doors. Don't learn anything that you don't need to apart from those 2 items. So I'll go ahead and complete the next stage of the build, and I'll put those metal doors into play, and I'll show you why. And yeah, I'll be right back and show you the next part when it's completed. And we're back with the next stage of this build. As you can see here, we've reinforced the walls with some spikes, which it's quite easy. Just make sure your spikes don't cover the gates. Now, speaking of the gates, you can see we've replaced the reinforced wooden gates with metal gates. Now, the metal gates fit comfortably inside the stone gateways, and the reason that we do this is it makes the gateways a lot stronger. And I mean, these spikes are going to repel wild dinos, and they may repel a player or 2, but they're more just a second line of defense. At this stage, you won't be able to build plant turrets or anything, So this is just a bit more of a defensive thing against wild dinos. So we'll go inside and we'll have a quick look at what I've got built in here. It's still very simple. Now you'll notice there's a gap in between the two buildings and there's two foundations here. I actually take these foundations out. These aren't here, this is the pathway. But I only put the two foundations there because eventually this will be one structure joined in the middle with more foundations. Right about here is where my safe will sit, and then there'll be a little bit more structure at the back. That's why we've left this extra space at the back. The foundations are simply for lining it up now so I don't have to pull it all down and do it again later. So to the one side, we've got a bit of a dino pen. You could potentially make this one wider, and I'd put a little shelf up there to park the pteranodons on, and maybe an Argy if I've got an Argy at this stage. Probably wouldn't. You've got your trike in here, raptor. Hopefully you might have a cat by now, because we're going to start really getting into the metal phase now of building this metal base. The same applies for the metal door. It makes it so much harder for people to actually break in. Now at this point here, so I've still got the two dodos. I've got plenty of room inside. I can start stockpiling stuff now. Stone's a bit safer. I mean, it's still not the safest thing in the game, but it's better. And you'll see, if you've watched my other videos, I talk about enclosing my ladder. My wooden ladder is enclosed by a door, because that means if people want to get upstairs, they blow the door off and potentially blow this ladder up. Now, in this design of base, I'll leave this open. Upstairs is going to be my main storage. It's going to be where I'm going to store most things. And this is easily upgradable. You can see there's plenty of room here. But yeah, this is the stage we're up to, and I'll stay at this stage for a little while. This point, it really starts to depend on the server. Hopefully by now you're starting to get a feel for the server and how aggressive people are, if there's aggressive people in your area, and you'll have an idea of what you need to do next. But this is this stage for me. From here, I'm starting to collect metal to start building my metal building, get my safe in. As soon as I can learn the safe, I'm leveling up, so narcotics is a big leveling, that really helps you level for a long time. And also now we'll be working on the next stage, which will be expanding the walls, getting our walled area bigger, really pressing for a few more dinos now, likes of a Carno, maybe, as soon as you can get that, which I think is level... Sabertooth's level 35, so I think Carno's level 45 potentially. But yeah, you're trying to work on getting a rough... Like, when I'm building these stone buildings at this point, this is the outlay of what my metal base is going to be. And now, because I've got the gap down the middle, which I'm going to fill in with base, I actually start working from the inside out and the outside in. So I'll build the next stage with the safe, and I will show you what I mean about building from the outside in and the inside out. Given that to get from this stage up to your further walls, like, I'm not going to build the next level of walls to show you, because at this stage, it'll be at your discretion how big you need to go. Personally, I'd be putting a behemoth gate probably either side of the base. I always try and double up my gates so I'm not trapped at one entrance. And then hopefully you're looking at Plant Species X, and I'll be doing some later videos on farming large amounts of materials to make crop plots and how to do it efficiently. That's what a lot of people don't get. That's what a lot of newer players get caught out with, is how to farm and build efficiently. So I'll go ahead and build the next stage of this construction, and I'll be back in a minute. And we're back again. As you can see, I've got the foundations in between the two buildings placed. I've got the vault in. I normally wouldn't exactly put it in at this stage, but this is just to give you an idea of where it goes. Now we'll come down here and I'll show you what I mean about building from the inside out and the outside in. We'll just walk around here. As you can see, building from the inside out, we've got the foundations laid that the safe sits on and the ones that surround the safe. This is so we can place all our walls securely. Placing metal walls on stone foundation is a very bad idea because stone foundations break easier than metal walls, so you're just wasting strength by putting metal walls on stone foundations. So I'll start by building from the inside out. I put my metal foundations around my safe. Um, Generally, I'll put the safe room in, but I won't put the safe in until the outer structure of the building's done. But this is just to show you how it fits. Now, you might wonder, how can I place a safe if I don't have a fabricator? But I've actually, because I've been planning this building, because of the way it's planned, I knew exactly where the safe was going to go. I was able to put my fabricator in early. I can put it in right there as I'm able to build it. And you can see I've got access to the safe just here. We've got safe access from upstairs, got safe access downstairs once the downstairs is in. Now, we'll talk about what I mean from building from the outside in. As you can see, there's some stone foundations left here. There's a row of metal foundations which are the full outline of the building. Right around the outside, including out here where you can see I'm going to put the building. I had to lose a bit of fence here, but at this stage it doesn't matter because there's not going to be any dinos out the back of my base and it's not going to affect them walking off the cliff or anything. So I put the metal foundations right around the outside. Now you see I've got some stone foundations left in here. I've got the same amount left both sides. So what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 12 stone foundations left in the middle of this base. Now this is purely to save materials. 12 stone foundations equate to about, off the top of my head, about 18 metal walls, maybe more, maybe a bit less, I can't remember exactly. But that's 18 metal walls that we can start to put on the outside of our base. So this is at the point where I'll start building the outside of the shell. As I said, I wouldn't have the safe necessarily in there, and I don't put the front wall in where the safe's going to go until I put the safe in. It makes it a lot easier to place, and as you can see, I've got the safe placed back right in one corner, and that allows me to put things like a bookshelf. I could put a bookshelf down in here to put my expensive blueprints in. You could also potentially fit a fridge down in here. I've managed to fit a fridge in one of these spots before and put a bookcase to the side. But I'll show you that in a minute. I'll get the next stage of this base done and come back, and we might do that in the next video as this will be getting a bit long. So I'll see you in the next video to see what the finished product looks like, hopefully.